I promise that nobody who speaks tonight will speak too long, but I also remind you that in the South we eat barbecue warm and cold, okay? So keep that in mind as we get along with our program. It really is a joy to see everybody here, and all kinds of people have helped make this day possible. But if you're able, we want at the end of our program, when everything is sort of coming to a close, this is like just a random announcement that we would love help stacking chairs. We had to move all of these tables and chairs out. I say we, but I didn't do it, remember. But if you will help stack those chairs, that would be wonderful. I welcome you to the celebration of the last 11 years with Reverend Whit Malone. And I want to turn it over first to Lynn James Smith and to William Pleasant, who are two members of the PNC who brought Whit to us.
Matt has promised that I will sound thinner than I actually am, so thank you.
Sound guys.
Good afternoon, I'm Lynn James Smith.
And I'm William Pleasant.
While we are not married, we have played married on a secret incognito trip to Iowa to sneak into church and observe Whit Malone. We are honored at the opportunity to speak on. We are honored to be able to have this opportunity to say a few words about Whit and the PNC that brought him back in 2011. We were blessed to be a part of that committee led by Ken Bates. Ken, if you are here, would you stand and remain standing, please? You're better.
Oh, he's sick.
The other members, if you would stand when your name is called, they were Krista Burns, Dennis Stamper, Megan Texer, and Lynn Young. You made such an impression with, I tell you what.
So if you're standing and you're a member of the PNC, you no longer need to stand. We should state here for the record that our comments are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the remaining members of the PNC, but we are the ones with the microphone. We considered, Lynn and I, after we asked to speak, we considered what we wanted to convey to the congregation after these almost 11 years of Whit's leadership, and we really kept coming back to a couple of themes over and over again. And really, as members of the PNC that brought Whit here, the main sentiment we want to convey to the congregation is, you are welcome.
The second sentiment that kept us coming back over and over was really a message to the current PNC tasked with finding Whit's replacement. And that is, damn.
Sorry. Bar's kind of high. So, in all seriousness, Whit and I could say that the experience of searching for and finding, thankfully finding Whit, was truly an example of God at work. It was a powerful experience for both of us, and we believe it was powerful for the rest of our committee. And we know that God is at work with our current PNC, and they are likely having the same powerful experience, and no doubt will have the same sort of God-guided outcome.
But tonight is not about the next pastor that is called. It is not about the PNCs, it is about Whit. We first learned about Whit through Ken and Chris Bates and a friend of theirs from Louisville who pretty much told us that Whit was the person that we wanted. If we had listened to him, we'd have saved a lot of time and effort. But after 2 years of an interim process, we needed to give it the decent and orderly go. So other members of the PNC remember things like Whit being gentle and kind. Some remember him as having had really difficult religious questions asked of him, and his remarks were humble and honest. They were not fearful. They were not full of fanfare. He gave way to the possibility that other people could also have their opinions, but he provided answers without hesitation. One of his references absolutely nailed him when they said, "Whit is very laid back. What you see is what you get. There's nothing forced in him. He is unfailingly kind. He is always gentle. And after 10 years, I didn't see anything that would be considered inappropriate in anger or ego. Very comfortable, he's accessible, he's easy. He's dependable, he's passionate about the world, studious, a good Bible scholar, has a knack for helping those in need, and he really loves his people." And we found that to be true as well.
So I can tell you that after 11 months of meeting weekly, starting in October of 2010, meeting like every week for 11 months, at least 159 PIFs, which are personal information forms, that's a pastor's resume, untold sermons that we read or listened to, and they were not all that good. Churches that had no websites, if you can believe that. Clunky Skype calls, because in 2010, guess what? There was no Zoom in 2010. 2 out-of-town trips, including a bonus night in Ames, Iowa. Thankfully, Chris had made little goodie bags for us all, and so we survived a night in an airport hotel. Lots of aliases, as Lynn alluded to, as we snuck into different churches. And Whit told me they actually worked in Ames. Like, people didn't realize we were there, which is kind of amazing, because 7 visitors on that day to 2 services. Through all that, Whit became the obvious, unanimous, deeply felt choice. He became the benchmark we started measuring other pastors by. And then the fact is, his closest competitor made the unforgettable choice of wearing white skinny jeans to dinner with us at the PNC. So that put Whit at the top. Right there.
When Ken Bates at our very first PNC meeting encouraged that we needed to decide there and then that the group needed to be unanimous, I was literally speechless. I could not imagine these 7 people being unanimous about anything. How would that happen? Well, it happened through the power of God. By being willing and obedient and guided, we were, in the end, indeed, remarkably, unanimously single-minded about it.
So one last fun PNC fact. Whit made the decision to accept the call to Hickory, even though one of his and Chris's very first experiences in Hickory was to have a careless driver run into them in a rental car on LR Boulevard right in front of Priscilla McCall's. Welcome to Hickory. And I think his reaction was what we've now come to expect, unflappable. He may have been stressed out. He may have been angry. He may have been frustrated, and maybe Chris knows a side of this story we don't know. But for those of us on the committee, what we saw was the calm, cool, and collected Whit that we've all come to know and love.
He was obviously the right person for the job. Our congregation had experienced 2 years of a very difficult interim season that had taken their toll on us. Whit was the calming salve we needed to help us heal at the time. And we think and hope, Whit would say, and Chris, that FBC Hickory was the right place at the right time for them. Right before another winter in Ames, Iowa. That's God at work. Thinking about all the things that Whit has helped this congregation navigate through in 10 plus years, using his many, many gifts. For example,
So Whit was wise enough to help us heal after that challenging interim time. That was critical, but it wasn't just about the status quo or peacemaking. Whit had his eyes on the next thing for this church. He led us as we sorted out the challenge of our two different services, how we could best serve different demographics in a changing faith community while remaining unified as a single congregation.
He led us through a great deal of change in staff over 10 years. Staff change is very common after you've had a minister for 20 years, like Wallace Johnson. And the church had done a few whammies to Whit in holding off on hiring some staff until the senior pastor came, thinking that would be a good idea, and giving him new jobs to start off with. We did not have, and Whit hired, to his credit, Carol Ann Hartman, Matt Schrum, Stephen Mowry, Kiki Neal, Catherine Mull, Beth Taylor, Sarah White, Kendall McGeorge, Billy Perkison, Sue Schaffner, Jimmy Perkison. I've got your name, Jimmy, I swear. Sue Schaffner, Ashley Berry, and oversaw the transition in treasurer from Jay Crane to John King. I'm sure there are more.
He also led us through an important and very successful capital campaign. Thank you for the Portico share with. It really tied our church campus together and remained true to our mission as a downtown community-focused church. He initiated trips to Israel with our members and others from the community that were life-changing for many. I'm sure that's true for some of you. You are here. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention Whit's impact on the Hickory community. They were big shoes to fill with Deborah McCachran and Wallace Johnson's history. But Whit did that. From his active role with Habitat for Humanity and the YMCA boards, to deep connections he has built and strengthened with many other nonprofits in town, to the relationships he has formed with other pastors and churches across denominational, theological, and racial lines. Whit has made us proud to say he's our pastor and friend, and Hickory is going to miss Whit as much as our church is.
And of course, he led us faithfully through a pandemic, who knew, with the wisdom of a longtime senior pastor, but also the willingness to try new things, to experiment, to succeed, to fail, to listen to his staff and support their talents, to push ahead in the face of uncertainty, to look at us now as strong, if not stronger, than we were before. That is no accident. That is God at work, choosing Whit to use his talents for his glory. Finally, Whit had the vision to push and convince the presbytery to let us take a new approach to our pastoral transition. Knowing that our church was healthy and ready to tackle this process in a more efficient, effective way, that will hopefully minimize the trauma and lengthy process for us due to his retirement. That's a real gift.
All of that on top of just being a good preacher and pastor. Being the senior pastor of a big, pretty rangy, opinionated church, leading Bible studies, Sunday school classes, pastoring members, and leading the session, many committees, and preaching good sermons all along the way with. All while maintaining that calm and calming demeanor and your great sense of humor. Friends, I think you'll all agree that it has been a genuine blessing to all of us to have Whit here for us for the last almost 11 years. He and Chris will be missed here for sure. But we know that God isn't done with them yet. They will no doubt leave their mark again in Louisville and St. Simons, but make no mistake, even as he leaves us, Whit's impact on our church, on the Presbytery of Western North Carolina, on the city of Hickory, and on each one of us as God's hands and feet and voice will endure and forever be a part of who we are. So thank you, Whit. Please join me in thanking Whit.
Everybody who knows me knows I make notes about 5 minutes beforehand, so there's a reason for that. It's because everyone else has already said what I was going to say. Okay. Heather's not going to be the only one who cries. When I was thinking about this today, I kept thinking about the story of the Good Samaritan and the idea that who applying mercy, giving mercy to people, taking care of the least of these, bringing people along with you. And every time I kept thinking about Whit, I kept thinking about community, I kept thinking about neighborhood, and that to me is what you represent to Hickory and to this church. There's a couple examples of that I can tell you where I can be out hanging around and I'll run into Whit and he goes, "Hey, have you talked to Austin Pierce lately?" No. You should really talk to him. And then it's "Have you talked to Dave Roberts lately?" No, I really need to talk to him. And the list goes on, but it's that kind of networking and that spider webbing of bringing people together constantly that you're so good at. We really, really appreciate that. Needless to say, the whole other piece I'm leaving out is your representation with Habitat, your dedication from the earliest days in Louisville all the way through until dealing with probably one of the most obstinate executive directors that you could run across. But just that kind, gentle hand on the back of people, I think, is just what we all appreciate the most, and your unflappable way in dealing with people. So to that, I gratefully say thank you. I know that there's a hammer waiting for you, and I should have brought one, but I brought you something else instead. You might have to stand up. So it's one of those, what do you give a guy who has everything? Well, you give him a t-shirt because he doesn't have enough, right? But it's a special t-shirt. And y'all are welcome to get one of these as soon as the program is over. You'll see. It is called Whit's Retirement Plan. And the plan is actually called the Malone. And there's a copy of the Malone plans for Whit to frame or just carry around with him wherever he goes from now on. So Whit said he wants to come build this, which means we can get him back in town for sure. But it's going to be the next house that we build in Ridgeview. It's the site. It's not the site of the house I've been trying to buy for the past 6 years, but it's the one that I've been trying to buy for like 5 years. It comes down in about another 30 days or so, and hopefully we'll start this plan within a couple of months after that. So yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So those of you who know me know that I am not an off-the-cuff speaker, not at all. I do my best thinking while walking the dog or bicycling on a spin bike or driving in the car. And what I like to do is I like to think about things for a long time and then put them down on paper so that what I really want to say is what comes out. And so this is where I'm comfortable with a podium in front of me and a full manuscript of my remarks here. That's where I'm comfortable. And boy, if there's ever a night I needed to be comfortable, it's tonight. First, thank you all for being here. This is a gorgeous site. It's just amazing. And it reminds me so deeply the bittersweetness of this, of retiring. So, obviously, my heart is full. It's overflowing. And you know, I was thinking about it. I wish everyone could feel this. I just wish everyone could feel a heart as full as mine. So last night, Chris asked me if I had thought about what I was going to say, and I said yes, but I was going to be very brief. And true to form, she just rolled her eyes like she had heard that before. But it's true. We've got more food to eat, and we've got music to listen to, we've got fellowship to enjoy. So I've just got one message. It's simple, and it is thank you. I was breaking the Sabbath this afternoon by mowing my yard on Sunday. one of the times where I think the best, when I'm mowing the yard. And all of a sudden I began to think about what people say after they come home from mission trips. What do you say? You say, I received more than I ever gave. You say, I was blessed far more than I was a blessing. So tonight I am going to be brief to say just thank you. I'm grateful for the Pastoral Nominating Committee because they did take a chance on this guy who was way out there in Iowa to come and be able to be your pastor. So that was a very blessed and spiritually enriching experience, and so I'm thankful to them. I'm also thankful for the staff. Lynn mentioned them, both past and present, because there are some past staff and some that continue to work in this congregation. It's just been a privilege to work with so many talented, dedicated, Jesus-following, hard-working people. I admire you. I appreciate you. And to those of you who are the staff, I hope you know that. And like William and like Lynn, I am confident that the Holy Spirit is already working in the process to call your next pastor, the next person who gets the privilege of occupying this place in your lives and in this church. I'm also grateful to the 60 or more elders that I've had the privilege to work with over these past 10 plus years. It has been a true inspiration to work on session with such wonderful people, such dedicated people. And I just count that as a real privilege. And I add to that folks who maybe weren't on session, but were on committees or task forces, the folks who were kind of down in the weeds in church work. And it was just a real joy to work with all of you over these years. And then I also want to thank the folks who put together this evening's event. It's just wonderful. There are too many people to name right now, and I would be sure I would forget someone, and I would hate to do that. So I'm going to do that personally, but they know who they are. You know who you are, and just please know you have my deepest gratitude. And finally, my family. There are many blessings to being the family of the pastor of a church. Not the least of which is that you have a ready-made family of really great people. You've got fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers and aunts and uncles and a whole bunch of little cousins running around. And so there is a great blessing that the family of pastors enjoy. But you also know that when we, who are pastors, try to fulfill our ordination vow to serve the people with energy, imagination, and love, that's not only us promising, that impacts your family. So anyway, thank you. The last thing I want to do is suggest that we reframe what we're doing tonight. I am so grateful for you coming here to recognize me and to recognize the ministry that I have been able to be a part of during these 10 years. But I'd like to reframe what we're doing tonight to make it less about me and my ministry and more about the wonderful people that God has gathered in Hickory, North Carolina. People who love Jesus, people who love their neighbor, and people who want to live the Christian life. And as I look out on all of you, members of this church, leaders in the community, leaders of nonprofit organizations, that is what I see. And so I remember, some of you remember, my first Sunday here. And as Lynn and William said, y'all had been through a really rough time. And so when I walked through that side door, you guys just stood up, and it's like this huge standing ovation, which I didn't yet deserve. There was no, you didn't really know me except a picture on a piece of paper and a few little biographical details. But you got up and you just erupted in applause. And I told you that day that this is not about me. This is about us. And so whatever small contribution that I have been able to make to the ministry of this church and to the community of Hickory, it has been us. It is because we have done it together. And for that, I am eternally grateful. So thank you, my friends. I love you.